Economic collapse isn't loud. It's not a Hollywood movie explosion, not a sudden death to a country that happens overnight. Instead, economic collapse is a slow, grinding process, moving slowly but patiently, and sometimes surely. A lot of people are waiting for a definitive moment of Russian economy death. Say, like a lightning bolt strikes and everything stops working instantly. People expecting that are missing the truth. The truth is, once a fundamental change happens, and I call it the cause, like it happened in Russia on February 24th, 2022, when Russia attacked Ukraine and alienated itself to the entire world. Economic changes leading to collapse got set in motion. The changes started happening, and it takes a while to get momentum. And in the case of Russia, it took 3 years. But once it gets going, watch out. And right now, in March of 2025, it is certainly time to watch out. It is an economic perfect storm. I sometimes call it the economic tsunami. And the key economic indicators of Russian economy that I'm going to present you right now show us exactly that. It is time to watch out. It is happening. Russian economy is in chaos. Howdy, everyone. My name is Konstantin. Welcome to Inside Russia, where usual Russia is explained by the unusual Russian. As usual, you will not find any BS propaganda and crap on this channel. Instead, you will find truth, common sense, and logic, and some emotions too, because I am a human being after all. First, I would like to clarify what I mean by saying economic collapse. The situation of collapse has two sets of criteria for me: subjective criteria and objective criteria. I actually explained it in pretty good details in my last live stream on Russian economy collapsing. I made it 2 days ago. And instead of repeating myself right now, I direct you to watch the explanation of economic collapse here. I'm going to put the link right over here. And I suggest you watch that live stream first, because it's a sort of, this one is part two of the story of Russian economy collapse. In the first part, I talked about particular industries collapsing with numbers and figures. And right now, it is time to share the key economic indicators of Russian economy in March 2025. If you are a professional economist, then it's going to be mega interesting for you. And if you're not, I will explain everything in very simple language and will make it interesting for you as well. Now, why is economy crucial for Russia right now? And what are the key economic indicators? I would like to answer these two questions very briefly. Economy is crucial because it is a foundation of Russia and pretty much any other country. Economy is resources. If economy is strong, a country can pursue different goals, including exerting influence over other countries, have strong technologically advanced army, and generally happy population. With strong economy, a country can do things and go places and get away with it. And on the contrary, when economy is weak, country is in survival mode, focused only on itself and trying to figure out how to survive just another day, having a great deal of political and social instability. I think we all understand that it's all about economy. Now, that out of the way, what are the key economic indicators and why there's so much fuss about them. I'll be very brief. If you are a regular watcher of my live streams, if you watch regularly, then you probably have seen I made a live stream dedicated to the key economic indicators. But I'll be very brief, just in case you didn't watch that. As countries produce goods and services and consume these domestically or trade them internationally, economic indicators measure levels and changes in the size and structure of economies and identify growth or contractions. There are quite a few economic indicators, and I talk about 6 here. 6 economic indicators that help gauge the health and direction of Russian economy. They are economic growth, GDP, inflation, unemployment rate, interest rate, the balance of trade, and the federal budget deficit. And as a bonus, I'll talk about Russian ruble, Russian currency, why it is strong now, how long it's going to last, and other things. So, basically, the key economic indicators help us gauge health and performance of country's economy. Now, let's jump to current Russian indicators. And I'll start with the inflation. By the way, we can't say that any indicator is more important than others. They're all interconnected. It's a balanced system. Okay, if one indicator changes due to some reasons, others are affected as well. Now, federal budget deficit. For Russia, this is extremely important, more important than for other countries. For the last 3 years, every year, Russia has spent more than it earned, significantly more. In 2022, 2023, and 2024, spending more than earning was kind of okay because of a large cash reserve, a huge one. You see, for decades prior to the war with Ukraine, Russia spent less than it earned, and it's a very good thing for economy. Russia had 2 magic products, I call it the magic wand sometimes, that made it filthy rich. Oil and natural gas in large quantities, and an excellent customer right next door, the European Union, and the pipelines that connected right to the customer. So transportation was very cheap and easy. So every year, Russia earned surplus. Russia had something left after it spent. And instead of the surpluses being invested into Russian economy, the government was saving it. They explained to Russian people, and I remember quite well, that those surpluses belong to Russian people and our money, okay? And they could have spent it differently on us, investing into the country and so forth. But they explained it that they were saving it just in case, to have an economic cushion when a recession would come. Now we know the truth. We know that Putin was actually saving those surpluses for the war. And in early 2022, Russia found itself with a huge cash reserve, around $160 billion in just cash, in so-called the Fund of National Welfare, and that's just a fancy name for a country's savings account. And even though half of the fund was frozen immediately after Russia attacked Ukraine, frozen by the European countries, the rest was enough to finance the war in Ukraine for 3 years. 3 years. The deficits in 2022, 2023, and 2024 were covered from that savings account. Now comes 2025 and things change. Well, they have changed already. No more savings account. The money is gone. And don't forget that Russia cannot borrow in the foreign markets. It is simply banned, not allowed, forbidden. And it cannot borrow domestically. No one wants to lend money to Russian government. So the money is gone. Where are we now in March of 2025? The planned budget deficit for the entire year, this year, is 1.2 trillion rubles. That was the number planned in the official budget document draft approved at the end of 2024, and that's quite a procedure. Actually, every year, the federal budget is prepared by the Ministry of Finance, sent to the parliament, where it gets 2 or 3 hearings, and then they approve it and they send it to the president. So, big deal, all right? 2 months after they approved the budget and the year started, the Deputy Minister of Finance of Russia, Dmitry Kolochev, announced that most likely the budget deficit in Russia will amount to 3.2 trillion rubles. Quite a jump in just 2 months. The reality is going to be much worse, and we'll be seeing that throughout the year. Growing budget deficit in 2025 is one of the faces of economic collapse, and we're seeing it right now. It's given us by the authorities, okay? We don't have to forecast any longer. Now, this is a hugely important economic indicator for Russia because I remind you that there are no investors left in Russia. The foreign investors all left in 2022, and Russian investors also left, the ones they could. The companies, large corporations, had own money, own funds, and they invest usually into the future of business. So most of investment plans were cut in 2024 because economy is not well. Those companies are not well. They are in the survival mode instead of growing mode and working for the future. No, it's different. So the only investor left in Russia is the federal budget. All the money are there, and federal budget finances everything now. And federal budget is in deficit. It means that, well, what does it mean for Russian people that there's such a huge budget deficit? For the past 3 years, many people in Russia had euphoria, and it's now gone. There were many people inside Russia and foreigners traveling to Russia that kind of didn't notice trouble. They were saying, oh, look how wonderful everything is. Russian stores are full of products, full of food. Unemployment is low. Russians are making money. No one is starving, And don't trust those bloggers outside Russia sitting talking about what's going on, the collapse, and so forth. The reality is picture perfect. And in some places like Moscow and St. Petersburg, picture was really perfect, and it still is at quite a few places. But it's changing fast. The rest of Russia is feverish, absolutely feverish, and Moscow and St. Petersburg are also changing. Now, in 2025, there will be no more euphoria. People will not be able to say, oh, look how wonderful things are. Russian government is cutting expenses big time. And the first expenses to cut are social expenses, social spendings on people, financing provinces, because provinces have their own budgets, financing federal employing federal financing federal employees paying their salaries, massive layoffs, large projects frozen, such as building roads all over Russia. They don't build them any longer. Well, they build them, but very slowly. Let's say if a project is for 2 years, they're going to be building it for 6 or 7 years. Okay, um, so less spendings on areas that concern people's lives but are not crucial for the war. For example, elevators. I mentioned it before. In Russia, there are dozens of thousands of elevators that are expiring. Okay, they need to be replaced, and that is government's job. Government usually steps in and replaces elevators in apartment blocks, and most Russians live in apartment blocks in the cities. Well, 55,000 elevators expired in 2024. They need to be changed. They are in critical conditions. But the government just extended their lives for 5 more years. Okay, instead of spending money, well, there's no money to spend. Medical equipment. A lot of hospitals need to buy new medical equipment to expand and simply to replace old. No such luck. And this is what I mean. The life in Russia for regular people is going to be getting worse and worse. And it's not a matter of when it happens, it is happening right now already. Huge, huge problems in Russia. And I was thinking about that, and I had an analogy. Okay, Russian economy is, and the budget, I guess, Russian budget is like a piano man. Imagine there's a piano man, an artist, a genius, plays fantastically, and is rich. He's invited to play concerts. Genius he is. He travels the country, sometimes the world, and he gives very expensive um concerts. And all of a sudden, he has a conflict with his manager has a conflict with local mafia. Okay, and mafia, catches this piano man, takes a hammer, and smashes his fingers on both hands. And as you know, that's you can't play piano any longer. Um, and the man, obviously, he still can move his fingers, but he can't do what he does best. And he cannot earn living by playing piano. And then he is out there trying to figure out what to do. And they say, well, look, you're still alive. You still have hands. You can go. Oh, you don't know how to do anything besides playing piano. You've been playing it all your life. Hey, no big deal. Go and sweep parking lots. Okay? You don't have education for that. Don't have to have any skills. It'll pay you minimum wage. You will survive. Okay? And this is basically where Russian people, and Russian budget deficit are going to. Russian budget. From having abundance, everything has been spent, wasted on the war. Okay? Wasted. There's no means of income anymore. The bread makers are gone, oil and natural gas, and Russian people are going to be stuck in a very bad position of poverty, at least a lot of them. Now, moving on to the next key economic indicator, and that is inflation. One thing I want you to know out of this whole thing about conversation about inflation is this. If you remember one thing, better remember this. Money mass in Russia has doubled since 2022, from 60 trillion rubles to current 120 trillions. The money mass has doubled in just 3 years. Money printing galore. Do you know what printing money means? Inflation. In 2024, official inflation was 9.5%. And we know it is a fake number. It's cooked. It was cooked. And this cooking was done in front of everyone's eyes, and it was a very, how do I say? It wasn't elegant. It was pretty rough. They basically were going into double-digit territory, and then that's bad for statistics. That's bad for Putin. So they decided not to account the last 10 days of 2024, and they pretended as if the inflation in the last 10 days of the year didn't exist. Otherwise, annual inflation would exceed 10%, and that's galloping inflation. Galloping is from 10 to 40%, and above 40 is hyperinflation. Now, the active collapse has started, and it's fueled by lack of money. They spent everything. They have run out of money. And the inflation in 2025, in the first 2 months, sets record every month. According to Rosstat, consumer prices in February 2025 increased by 10.06% compared to the same month of previous year. The inflation rate in January was 9.92%, and in February increased to 10.06%. Now, that's bad. That's very, very high. And don't forget, those numbers come from Rosstat, and we know they are cooked. We know that we cannot trust the government agency, right? So imagine what the reality is. According to different experts, real-life inflation last year in 2024 reached 38%, up to, I heard different numbers, but from 30 to 38%. And this sounds about right, okay? Now, I will also talk about the key interest rate at the same time, because inflation and the key interest rate of the central bank go hand in hand. How does Russian central bank keep trying to stop inflation and take it back under control? It was trying, but not any longer. It's not trying anymore. It tried in 2023 and in 2024, and it had one tool, and it was using it fairly wisely, and that tool is the key interest rate. But this is it. It's not using the tool any longer. You see, the key interest rate exists as a tool that the central bank of any country uses to keep inflation under control. When you increase the key interest rate, you make it much more attractive to take your money, to take people's money and bring them to commercial banks, deposit them, and earn a lot. Because key interest rate is high. Okay, that's when the central bank wants to dry economy of money. But then when the key interest rate is, when inflation is under control, then the central bank in the United States, called the Federal Reserve, usually lowers the key interest rate, and it becomes not so attractive to keep your money in the bank, and the money flows back into the markets and fuels economic growth. Okay, so high interest rate means low inflation and lower economic growth. And high key interest rate means, and low key interest rate means higher economic growth, but higher inflation. Okay, I hope I explained it as easy as I could. I hope I explained. I hope you understand. Need a break. I hope I understand it in a way that you understood. Okay. I hope I explained it in the way that you understood. I tried. Anyway, in November of last year, 2024, Russian central bank ceased to be an independent financial institution, and it should be. It's supposed to be, because the central bank is set apart from the rest of the economy. It's sort of a controller, a supervisor, so to speak. But it was happening until November 2024. Inflation was going up, and the central bank was trying to tackle it down. It kept on increasing the key interest rate and got to 21%, which is pretty darn bad. It's very high. It's the record high in Russia. And Elvira Nabiulina, I think he did a good job of trying to fight the inflation, trying to keep it lower. She had a telephone call from the boss himself, the Tsar, Putin. And the thing is, the higher the rate, the more difficult it becomes for companies to do business because money becomes much more expensive. And it became very difficult for Russia's military industrial complex to produce whatever they produce: death, tanks, rockets, ammo, guns, and so forth. And the owner of the Russian military industrial complex, Sergei Chemezov, very old friend of Vladimir Putin, perhaps one of the best friends, started complaining to Putin about Nabiulina, started telling him that Nabiulina was basically destroying Russian economy, slowing it down, putting it into the recession. And Putin had a call. He called Nabiulina and he told her to behave. And she started behaving. So now she's not controlling the inflation anymore. Inflation is growing at record numbers and nothing is done by the central bank. Well, I understand that too, because there is no way out of the situation. If you raise the interest rate, you lower inflation by a bit, okay? But at the same time, you slow down economy even further. Because imagine you have a business, you go to a bank and you ask for a loan to do whatever your, operation for your operational expenses. For example, you need to buy something to create a product and sell it, and you need money for that. So you go to a bank, and bank is glad to lend you money at, let's say, 32% annuity. How would you feel about that? Would you do business, or would you say, you know what, I throw in the towel? And that is what is happening in Russia. People, they cannot borrow money any longer because it's out of reach. So economy is not doing well at 21% because businesses simply don't have much money. It means that 21%, well, above 21, that if you take a bank loan of, let's say, 30%, it means that your profit must be astronomical. I don't know any business that margin is above, profit margin is above 30%. That's crazy. Okay. So Nabiulina is not fighting any longer. There's a political feud going on between her and Sergei Chemezov, and Vladimir Putin is acting as arbiter, arbitraging the whole thing. What does it mean for regular Russian people? Nothing good. They will continue becoming poorer. They have been becoming, and I think that the future is much worse. Remember the federal budget deficit? Well, there will be layoffs in both public and private sector. They have been going on, okay? There will be more. They will be cutting costs everywhere. Perhaps there will be lower in salaries. The companies simply cannot afford to operate in this economic environment, and the government, the companies, and the government cannot afford to pay salaries to non-essential employees, non-essential for the war. For example, there are massive cuts of doctors, nurses, and medical personnel in east of Russia, in two provinces, and large cuts of kindergarten teachers in Kemerovo province. For one simple reason: the budgets, local and the federal, don't have money to pay them, so they lay them off. There will be more bankruptcies because businesses are going under. Um, People have less money and they buy less products, goods, and services. Businesses, their money that they borrow becoming more and more expensive, and the economy is shrinking. So let's take a look at, for example, at the sales of new cars. 25% decline in 2025. A quarter fewer cars, 25% fewer cars sold in 2025 in the first 2 months compared to February and January of 2024, the previous month. And this is just one of the signs, okay? So it's a vicious circle. More bankruptcies, fewer companies, lower taxes collected, fewer jobs, fewer budget revenues, and Russian government cannot borrow from anywhere to actually, finance this deficit, this situation. The only way out for Russian government, for central banks, left is printing money, but that will lead to more inflation. Before moving to the next economic indicator, the unemployment rate, I would like to take this opportunity and to thank you, everyone who is a part of this community. Inside Russia has become a big part of my life because of you. So thank you so very much. Thank you for supporting me by watching my live streams, participating in live stream chats, commenting, liking, sending me messages, praying with me and for me, and sending me love. Thank you, friends. Thank you for buying me coffees at buymecoffee.com. Thank you for Patreon, for PayPal. Still demonetized. Still not getting anything from Google. I appreciate every dollar. Never required. Always very much appreciated. Thank you so much. You have my word that no matter if I monetized or demonetized, if I earn money from Google or don't earn money from Google, it doesn't matter. I will continue doing what I've been doing for the past 3 years. So thank you so very much. Now back to the message. Another key economic indicator is unemployment rate. Oh, unemployment rate. This has been a disaster for the past 2.5 years. Real numbers of unemployment in Russia right now are really hard to present to you right now because no one knows. I've heard different experts and politicians and authorities, and even Putin himself said unemployment numbers. And the numbers vary currently in a range from 1.8% to 2.2%. Now, any economist will tell you that 2.2% is absolutely disastrous. 1.8% unheard of. I studied economics for 7 years in 2 countries, right? And I did not hear once of 1.8% unemployment. 3.5% is already bad. 1.8 is a disaster. Simply not enough people to fill all positions, and that economy cannot grow with so few people, okay, in the labor force. Now, 1.8 to 2.2. 2.2 is being very positive estimation. Putin said 2.0 once. Now, there are obvious reasons for the unemployment. There are 3. First is obviously the war. There was a mobilization. There were 320,000 mobilized officially, unofficially perhaps more. Then 720,000 people signed military contracts voluntarily to go fight to Ukraine. Most of them are probably dead right now or severely wounded. Okay, and they certainly are off the labor market. That's way over 1 million people, perhaps couple million. Again, it's hard to say. We don't know the numbers. We just know that so many people have been killed. Number two, the exodus. See, there are actually quite a few smart Russians who've decided that they would leave Russia. Some left after the start of the war, some left after the start of the mobilization. Myself included. I left on September 27, 2022. Right now, it is estimated over 3 million people have left Russia in 3 years, and they're certainly off labor market. Most of them have higher education. Most of them are very confident. They were making good money. They were business owners. The cream of the crop, I call these people, and they left Russia. And number three, the deportations. Now, not too many people talk about that, but that's a real problem in Russia right now. You see, there are a lot of migrant workers who come from Central Asian countries mostly, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, and they go to Russia temporarily, they work, they send money home, and then they come back. Well, about a year ago, Russian government started a war, the war on the immigrants, legal immigrants, the migrant workers. They started deporting them by tens of thousands. And all these people, the migrant workers, do when they come to Russia, they work. They fill the positions that Russians refuse to fill. They sweep streets and parking lots. They clean toilets. They work in construction and so forth. And somehow Russian government decided to label them as enemies, driving crime rate up, and basically started deporting them. That's a political move. They just needed to take people's focus off the war to some place inside Russia, and then, the migrant workers, the immigrants are the easiest target. So these three reasons are crucial for unemployment rate of 1.8%. The war, the exodus, and the deportations. Now we start seeing a phenomenon of mass layoffs and low unemployment rate at the same time. Again, this is something I had never seen in my life. Usually right now there are, for the last 4 months, highly paid employees, executives, IT people are fired because companies they start losing business, they start shrinking, they start going under, and they fire highly paid employees and leave low paid employees. They stay for now, okay? And with growing inflation, there's people, the low paid employees that still stay in the companies, they lose a lot of incomes, and I think they barely survive now. Let's move to the economic growth, or GDP, gross domestic product. The picture is far from perfect. In 2024, in Russia, GDP amounted to 4.1%, which is, if you think about it, it's very healthy, it's large, it's a good number. Considering that from 2014 to 2022, Russian economy grew by about 1% per year. It was stagnating for the most part, right? And all of a sudden, GDP started growing. Why is that? Well, it is Russia. Usually, 4.1% is healthy, but not in today's Russia. There's an explanation to this number, 4.1%. In Russia right now, well, the explanation is called the war economy. In Russia right now, there are two economies, the war economy and the civil economy. A huge growth of their military-industrial complex fueled by, right, the savings account, the Fund of National Welfare. Remember those 320 billion US dollars that they were laying in cash? Well, they all have been spent on the war to wage this war with Ukraine. At the same time, and then those money were taken and pumped into the war factories. And of course, war factories grew. They hired more people. They started second and third shifts. They're working around the clock right now. And they're producing death. Tanks, missiles, drones, ammo. And this stuff does not bring any value to the economy. Okay? So the economy is not growing in real terms. Okay? Because these missiles, they fly to Ukraine, they blow up and kill people. That's it. They lost. The value is lost. There's no monetary value to Russian economy. Okay. Of course, those who work in the war factories now make much more money because the war factories were sucking everyone inside their factories, vacuuming them, by offering perks, bonuses, high salaries, and so forth. And that is also driving the inflation. Okay. At the same time, civil economy was shrinking, and now some industries are collapsing. Again, I covered it in a previous stream in details. The link is going to be up here somewhere. Check it out. It's interesting. I took a few industries and showed what is happening inside there. So the official forecast for GDP growth for this year is not much more conservative, 1.5%. That's quite a change from the last year of 4.1%. I wonder what happened. Why there's such a huge difference? A drop. Well, that's very easily explained. There isn't abundance of money to throw into the war economy right now. Money's gone. It's been spent. It's a finite amount of money that Russia had, and it was spending like crazy for 3 years, and it is gone now. I keep on repeating that because that is absolutely crucially important. The civil economy cannot help. No, it's quickly declining. It's taking everything even more down, What does it mean for Russian people? Well, declining living standards. Russia is going fast to the 90s when the collapse of the USSR happened and one economic system, communism or socialism, was replaced just like that with a lightning bolt strike to capitalism. Okay, and then it took 10 years to adjust. But then Russia, instead of going forward into the future, it's going backwards to 1991 fast. And actually, 91 and 92 were the worst years back in the USSR, and that's where we are going fast back. Okay. News come out every day, so many of them. I try to cover here on YouTube, but it's just too many. I would like to remind you that I have a Patreon account where I carefully select 9 news every single day. And I put my commentaries and my analysis, and I make 9 news available to patrons of Inside Russia. So if you want to know things of Russia, if you want to know what is currently happening, if you want to stay on top of things, because things are changing so fast. Like right now, today, just in one day, there have been so many turns in negotiations between the USA and Russia on peace agreement and peace terms, So it needs to be covered every couple hours. So if you want to stay on top of current things, look no further. You know where to find the news at Patreon of Inside Russia. I'm going to place the link down below. Check it out. The feedback that I've received is very, very positive. A lot of people like it. Give it a try. Now, there's a very important indicator called the balance of trade. Balance of trade is basically any country produces products and sells it to foreign countries, sells them to foreign countries, and it buys something from foreign countries. And there's the saldo of between what it buys and sells is the balance of trade. Russia's positive foreign trade balance in 2024, and just a historic note, Russia, for the most part, in the recent history, in the recent 15 years, maintained positive trade balance. It sold more than it bought, okay? Because of one simple reason. It was selling huge amounts of natural resources, oil, natural gas, metals, ores, raw materials, other raw materials, gold, and so forth. That brought in so much money, and the trade balance was always positive. In 2024, trade balance increased by 7.8% compared to 2023 prior year, and amounted to $150 billion. Well, 2024 was actually a good year for trade. Russia still was trading a lot of, selling a lot of oil, a lot of natural gas, and metals, still selling a lot, fertilizers. And they were troubles with buying things, importing, mostly from China, because China is the biggest trade partner with Russia right now. The Chinese, starting in February 2024, started making troubles to Russian trade companies. They started not accepting payments from Russian banks to Chinese banks. They started slowing down the process of goods going through customs in China and so forth. But still, trade balance was large, positive trade balance, $150 billion. And now, pay close attention to what's going on now. And that's another phase of decline of Russian economy, well, collapse of Russian economy. Russia's foreign trade balance in January of 2025 decreased by 4.8% year on year to $7.9 billion, according to the data from the Federal Customs Service of Russia. That's a lot. That's a lot. It means that Russia still buys things from China, probably in the quantities close to what it used to buy, but it sells so much less. Why? Because the Chinese have been refusing to buy Russian oil. And that's the bread maker, remember? The Indians have been refusing, and they started much earlier than the Chinese. They started in the second half of 2024. They have been refusing to buy Russia's oil. Now, Russian natural gas was still being exported to Europe, to a few countries, through Ukraine, believe it or not. It's been a war for 3 years, but still, Ukrainians were allowing natural gas, and Russia was paying Ukraine for that, the commission. And then it stopped January 1st of 2025. So Russia used to export 150 billion cubic meters of natural gas every year. Now it's exporting 15 billion. 90% of export of natural gas is gone. Russia's trade deficit, well, it's still a positive trade balance, okay? But it's dropping down very quickly, and it's nearing zero. And it hasn't happened in the future, in the past, in the recent past. It's always been a positive balance. Russia was selling much more than buying. That shows that it's trouble, more trouble for the federal budget of Russia. Less money coming in. You sell less, you receive less and less. And then Russia doesn't produce anything. So it'll be buying as much it has been buying because it simply cannot refuse, it cannot stop buying things. Consumer electronics, components, products, food, you name it, from China. Because otherwise Russia would collapse without the Chinese goods. That's another phase of the economic decline, and that's a very important one. And then I'll give you a little bonus about Russian ruble. A lot of people have asked. Russian ruble devalued a great deal in the 4 months of, three and a half months of last months of 2024. It lost about 32% of its value, and all of a sudden, it gained value back. 2025 has been very good for Russian ruble. Now, in late, I think on December 31st, it was being traded at 108 rubles per US dollar. Now, it's traded at 86 rubles per US dollar. Can you imagine that? Ruble became much stronger. How is that so? How is this possible with a Russian economy? Well, there is a very simple explanation. Russian ruble is not a fiat currency any longer. It is not being traded inside Russia. Okay, Russian ruble, the exchange rate is set artificially by Russian central bank. Okay, and they are keeping it low. Well, fairly, they're making Russian ruble stronger to fight the inflation. Because that's one of the hidden ways to fight the inflation. Okay, if you make Russian ruble stronger, then Russian consumers pay fewer rubles, for the same products that they would pay more rubles when exchange rate is higher. Okay, so the prices don't go up as much, and they're trying to keep the inflation low. It is a very artificial number. It's not dictated by the market, but it's dictated by a central bank. Russian ruble will lose value soon, and it's going to lose it fast. Last year, I made a prediction around 120, 130, perhaps even more towards the end of the year. And I was, about a year ago, I was thinking that in July of 2025, Russian ruble would be trading at around 107. I still, not be trading, but the exchange rate would be set around 107. I think that it's going to be worse than that for ruble. It's going to be devalued more. And we will see the valuation very quick landslide fairly soon. Mark my words. Please keep on coming back and to watch this. I will be monitoring and I will be keeping you updated, including in Patreon account, on what is happening with Russian ruble. So now I would like to sum up. The picture is pretty darn bad. Economy. All major key economic indicators in Russia are showing that the economy is landsliding. Economy is shrinking. It's losing strength. And when economy is weak, Russia is weak. It shows the strength of Russia or lack of it. And the stronger Russia is, the longer it can wage the war on Ukraine and harder it can strike Ukraine. But the weaker Russian economy is, the weaker Russia is, that it cannot wage the war for long. It cannot strike as hard. So all the money that Russia has had before, it had saved a lot in the savings account, it has spent. Absolute majority of it. It's not looking good for 2025. I thought the demise would come quicker. in the middle of 2024, perhaps at the end of 2023, but I was wrong. It took longer, and this collapse has been much slower. There are subjective reasons for that and objective reasons. Objective ones are Russia was selling a lot of oil in 2022, and it made lots of money that let it last longer. This is it. This is it. 2025, it's not a matter of if and when, it's a matter of it has been. Russian economy has been declining, and all major economic indicators are showing that. And it's not coming from the opposition economists, opposition leaders. It's not coming from bloggers any longer. It's coming from Russia's officials. It's official. Listen to what the central bank executives say at their press conferences. Listen to what speeches people, the executives of Ministry of Finance make. They start telling more and more harsher truth because they know that someone, probably at the very top, who sits on the very top of Russia's pyramid, will not be happy when things go very, very, very sour. And he will need someone to blame. He will need someone to make a scapegoat. He will need someone to put his finger at and say, hey, this person is responsible. He or she made mistakes, underperformed, or perhaps did it on purpose. Look what they have done to Russian economy. Because, of course, it's not Putin's fault. It's not Putin's problem. It's not Putin's responsibility. It's these people who are in charge. And they know that. And they start telling that things are not too well. They start putting fingers onto each other, finger pointing, and they start trying to find a way out for themselves. I start seeing happening. I see in the Ministry of Finance, in the Ministry of Economic Development, in the Ministry of, in the Central Bank. And actually, you know what? I like it. I like it. That's exactly what I've been telling for 3 years about the economic tsunami and about Russian economy demise, landslide, perfect storm. This is it. This is it. The economic indicators are telling us that. Thank you so much. It's been my message. I'm very sorry. It's a long one, but, it's a very difficult topic to deliver. Took me 2 live streams to give you a picture of what's going on. It was more of a micro economics, what is happening in the industries 2 days ago, and now macro economics, macro indicators, the key economic indicators. And I know nothing positive, absolutely nothing positive. Thank you. I invite everyone to join me in the live stream chat that I am turning on right now. Thank you so much for coming, giving me a chance. It's an honor to have you. And this actually is the best part of any stream for me, when I turn the live stream chat and all of a sudden it explodes with people. Thank you for coming. The usual suspects, I know who you are. Most of you I know by names. Thank you for coming. Thank you, moderators, for keeping this community pleasant and clean. Thank you, everyone. Please be patient with everyone and be respectful. We do not discuss U.S. politics. We do not fight. We do not insult each other. We try to keep it as pleasant as possible. If you want to know why, this is the best community in the world because of the moderation team. They are Lorna, Mami K, Harry Podnan, Bob S, Amir Fazat, and Dirk. Thank you, friends. Thank you for coming back again and helping me out. And thank you for you. As usual, If you want to see your message if you want me to see your message easier, please put it in all caps and put inside Russia after @ It's going to be much easier for me to see, highlighted in large orange box. And I will jump right into the questions. Not too much time, about what, 10-15 minutes we have, if that. I know, but very, very tough topic. And I apologize. I tried to keep it as simple as possible. I tried to. Anyway, I hope you found it educational. Perhaps some of you found it entertaining. I certainly do. I love economics. I'm economist. That's what I went to school for. So thank you. Thank you for being here with me. I'll just take a few questions real quick, and I think that's it. Benjamin Wandernoit, thank you so much. Thank you for good words. Andrew from South Africa. Remy Leon. Remy, thank you for coming. Good to see you. Deborah from sunny California, as usual. Oh, it's tough stream. My head is big. It's probably like a lecture at the university, that type of thing. Ryan from Newfoundland, Canada. Hey Ryan, how are you? I lived in Maine, not too far from Newfoundland. Well, still a lot, still far, but not too far, Probably the closest point, definitely closest point in the USA. Very remote location, Newfoundland. That's very rugged nature, Ron S., thank you so much. I was surprised on your thought on immigrants. Sounds just like the US. Hired to do the low jobs, called criminals, and trying to kick them out. Ron, thank you so much. My stand on immigration is any country needs legal immigration, controlled immigration. And it certainly does not need illegal immigration. But you need to, how do I say that? You can't just let hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants into your country and then try to deport them, okay? How many immigration agents or ICE are there in the United States? 20,000? And then 10,000 of them probably are used for administrative jobs. And 10,000 are out there in the field trying to find illegal immigrants. And how can they tackle down this problem? But you know what? Hey, I'm not talking about the US politics. Please forgive me. That's you lured me into that. So no US politics, no ICE. That's talking about Russia. Russia has its own share of problems with immigrants. I think that what Russia is doing, Russian authorities are doing, is absolutely unacceptable and just wrong, plain wrong. They're deporting innocent people. It's not like they're illegals. They're deporting, blaming them to drive the crime rate up. In reality, the crime rate is up because of the criminals are out of prisons. They served 6 months and they come back to real life in Russia, and then they start doing what they know how to do best: to kill, to murder people, to rape, to even like 2 cannibals are out, okay? Convicted and given 20 plus years in prison. They're out there roaming. So anyway, crazy. There's a question on brain drain I saw from Leitmotiv for me. Brain drain is exploding in a good way. We have so many new people. I made that video and I invited volunteers, and they came. We have quite a few people helping. Fantastic crew, fantastic bunch. Things are moving. We meet every day. It's become like an probably should make an update on Brain Drain. Um, I believe we got $1,700 in donations. I need to make an update to tell people how we have spent some of it. Some of it was still not spent. Okay, some of it has been spent. So I gotta report back, and I gotta tell you of the progress. All in all, it's been fantastic. Very glad for that people reached out to me and offered their help to join Brain Drain, and we have new members of the board. We have 2 attorneys, members of the board. We have fantastic social media tech guy. We have a secretary. We have compliance. It's just, I'm very excited. Every day we meet and the Brain Drain is just taking off. Dale, other than India, Iran, and North Korea, who's trading with Russia these days? Well, they still sell oil. They somehow get it out of Russia with a shadow fleet and then reload to different tankers and sell it as if it's not Russian. They still do that. The big problem for Russia is global oil prices are dropping, and the cost of extracting for Russia is around $45. Right now, it's sold at huge discounts, mid 50s, $52, $55. It does not leave much to collect. Okay, so India, China were the biggest customers. Iran has plenty of its own oil. Iran competes with Russia as oil exporter, and it exports to China more and more. Iranian oil has actually replaced Russian oil to China. North Korea does not trade with Russia whatsoever. It exchanges something, perhaps money, perhaps products or whatever. I don't know, but it exchanges for weapons, missiles, old Soviet missiles. Okay, that's it. Larry Barth, howdy, good to see you. Shareleaf, I know this is a bit simplistic, but I was taught a very long time ago that printing money is a recipe for economic disaster. Look, you are absolutely right. It is a recipe for the economic disaster. I tried to make that point. The more money is printed, the less you can buy with money because prices going up. See, economy grows when number of products and services produced grows, and then money grows along with it. But then when you print money and the number of products and services stay the same, then you simply, the prices for the existing products and services go up because you have more money, but the same amount of goods and services, right? And this is what has been happening in Russia. It will continue, and it is intensifying. So it's going to be bad. Tammy Stovall, usual suspect, mods and new friends. Hello, you say. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you so much. Andreas Benz, good to see you. I'm sorry, my presentation is a bit hectic today. It's been what, hour and a half already? Hour 20 minutes. Very, very tough topic to talk about. Deborah, for the sake of Ukrainian democracy, there are many of us who are hoping for it to implode ASAP, but I feel bad for you and those like you. Your thoughts? Not meant to be mean. Well, you're not being mean. That's a natural flow of things. My thought is this. Russian economy is doomed in the state that it is if nothing extraordinary happens. For example, the United States lifts the sanctions, gives aid to Russia. Is it possible? No, it is possible. Probable? No, not really, but I can't rule it out, right? Then Russian economy, I can't say it will be okay, but it will keep on going, okay? At the expense of people, they're picking up the bill, and that's something I always talk about. But if nothing extraordinary happens, if the sanctions keep on working, keep on being, well, at least they keep the same amount of sanctions, that my bet is it will implode in 2025. Again, please watch the previous stream where I explain what I call the economic collapse. Sam, you look exhausted. Perhaps do a completely different subject stream once in a while rather than just about Russia, such as a walkabout stream. Sam, I went to Hiva, took 2 days off. Hiva is a very historic town in the middle of a desert in the heart of Uzbekistan, and it's a museum under open sky. It's an ancient city that is intact, and people still live there. I filmed a lot, and while I was there, I wanted to share my experience with everyone. So I decided that once a week I'm going to be getting out there in Tashkent. Well, I get out anyway, and I'll be taking my camera and film something unique about life in Uzbekistan and in Tashkent, and I'll be making it available for patrons on Patreon of Inside Russia. Only for patrons because I cannot upload it here on YouTube. That's a completely, it's not going to be viewed a lot, okay? That's going to throw off the algorithm big time because people come here not for Uzbekistan, but to get information on Russia. And that would confuse everyone if I post here. So, as my way of thanking patrons, I'll be making that available to patrons. Also, to those who are members of Buy Me Coffee, and I'll be making those movies available for them as well. Shareleaf, Russia has a what to me is overwhelming amount of data to analyze. That is, historically speaking, an experiment during a free market economy. Who monitors these issues in Russia? No one. I monitor a little bit. Well, I think I study history, I analyze, and I monitor everything that happens now in the years of war, in the days of war. But other than that, don't know what to tell you. Greg Hughes, it's hard to understand what is real economy is, I think, back to Greek default and its bailout still ongoing issues. Well, as far as I understand, Greek economy is back on track. It's recovered, but I don't really understand what you're asking. It's hard. It's not hard to understand for me. I've studied the economy. It's hard to explain in a simple language because I tried to put economic concept to compress them and put them into like 40 or 50-minute message. Okay. Um, you could create a new channel for your camera stuff. You know, Ron, I'm afraid that it's going to take time off um, my main YouTube channel Inside Russia because it's difficult to create and maintain YouTube channel. It takes time. And upload takes just basic stuff. You know, if you have finished movie and upload, it takes an hour, okay? Because there are so many steps. It's much easier and much simpler for me to upload it to Patreon. Okay, so I don't have any help with my channel. It's one-man show. I do everything myself, the technical stuff. I think of messages. I think them over. Sometimes I script. Sometimes I put bullets. So, I would be spreading myself too thin doing that. Bob, thank you for the reminder. Yes, we are going to a prayer just in a minute. Craig Hughes, what level are Russian bullion reserves presently? I cannot tell you of the current amount. They've been selling gold, I know that, and less than before. Let's put it this way. Still quite a bit of gold, but Russian gold is under sanctions. They can't sell it easily. It's not a liquid asset any longer. They can only sell it in small quantities in the shadows. Okay, so I wouldn't count on Russian gold much. And I guarantee you that Russian gold will disappear almost entirely once Russian political system will start collapsing. Because when the USSR collapsed in 3 days, the Soviet gold disappeared. 1,200 tons. No, yes, 1,200 tons of gold just disappeared. Those who are in the know, the KGB, top generals, the politicians, they'll take care of Russian gold. You watch. It will disappear again. Friends, I would like to finish up today. It's been really tough stream. Thank you so much. And I invite everyone to pray along with me. As usual, thank you so much. 2,600 people watching right now. Amazing. Please, let's pray. Dear Lord Jesus Christ, thank you so much for giving us this day. Thank you for putting food on our tables and giving roofs over our heads. Thank you so much for our families, loved ones. Please give us wisdom to keep the skies above our children's heads safe and peaceful, and give us wisdom to raise them to become good people who will make this world a better place. For now, please keep our children healthy and safe. Dear Lord, please help Ukraine, stop the bloodshed as soon as possible, reach out and touch the hearts of those who can make this decision so they wake up from the lethargic sleep and bring peace. Please help every single Ukrainian who's been affected by this terrible tragedy, answer their prayers, and make their wishes come true. Help my country. Assemble the army of your strongest angels with largest knives and swords. Have Saint Michael lead that army and send it to this earth to get rid of the demons that have hijacked my country, who we know by their names and by their faces. Dear Lord, please do that. Please send your angels to help good Russians run their country, to make it peaceful, loving, respecting, to make it good. Please help all those who are traveling, send them safe travels. Help those who are in dire straits and danger right now, send safety. Help those single mothers and fathers who are struggling, raising their children, trying to make ends meet. Help those who are helping Ukrainians, and help Ukrainians who are currently under attacks from Russian missiles and ammo and weapons. Please send everyone safety. Dear Lord, I am asking you to help all people who are in need, who are sick, cold, addicted, hungry, homeless, jobless, betrayed, who are going through divorce right now, who are hurting, who are crying, who are losing their faith, going through very hard times, and losing hope, and feeling abandoned by everyone. Please reach out and touch the hearts of those people who are in need, and let them know that you're with them, watching every step they take, and loving them. You have not left them. Please help everyone in need. Dear Lord, thank you so much for everyone who is here right now, praying along with me or simply watching us pray. Make everyone's wish come true and answer everyone's prayer. Thank you. I would like to ask you for some people who need your help. They are Ron Bazoid, Sandra, Teresa, Jeff, Karsten, Janice, Anne, Hannah, Jeffrey, Katharina, Alex, Mark, Tom, J.R. McKim, Gabing with Gary, Lisa, Harry, Terry, John, Linda, Paula, Dennis, Jason, Susie, Tim, Dory, Rhonda, John, Taylor, Wayne, Darla, George, Roberty, Pamela, Meta, David Porter, Leif, Randolph, Grace, Dean Spooner, his church, Yelena, Natasha, Michael, Jake, Oля, Dasha, Sky, Svetlana, Sergey, Liz, Ron, Liz, Koshkin Dom, Mike and Mike, Petra, Jodes, Joseph, Millie, Philip, Eileen, Highwayman, Denise, Derek, and Jeff. Thank you so much, dear Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, friends, for coming. You're absolutely fantastic. You're awesome and you rock. It's so great. It's a huge honor to have you here. Thank you. Thank you for this community. Thank you for coming back, watching, interacting. Thank you. Tomorrow, Friday news update as usual. There are plenty of news. Unbelievable news. Come back. I think you will find it interesting. And as usual, at the end, please say as loud as you can the following: Carthago delenda est.